So it was a great keynote today. Really
Thanks.
enjoyed it. I think it was very provocative, and
Good.
it's kind of unusual to have a student affairs leader at a higher ed marketing
Right.
conference, and so. And I think that reflects the fact that it may be a bit unusual for there to be a strong partnership between student affairs and marketing. Because has it always been that way at BU, or how have you worked to make that partnership grow?
Well, I find it amazing that there isn't a good relationship, because it's been one of those partnerships at BU that's been vital. I had mentioned that years ago I started going to marketing conventions and conferences where people were looking at youth markets, because I have like to think that part of what I'm trying to do is to communicate to a youth market. So we worked, particularly in the last 8 years, to try and make sure we've got a good partnership with our marketing communications people. We've got a regular team that we meet with about once a quarter to look at some of the things that are coming down the road, to look at how we might be able to push other departments around the university to really engage the channels that we've got a bit more. And yeah, I think you still get some people who are a little skittish about this whole concept of marketing. But when they see the results, when they start to see real communication, particularly in places where they never thought about before, or they see that people know who they are, or what they're about, or understand their messages because they've had the benefit of good consult from people in marketing communications, I think that's been helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I think that sometimes when you have silos at institutions, it can be because people are working against different objectives, or think they're working against different objectives. So do you have conversations about shared objectives, or does everyone just know that keeping current students happy with the institution and keeping them engaged will lead to good results?
Well, we do have to make sure we've got shared objectives. And a part of what my office tries to do from the student life context is to make sure that from an internal standpoint, we make sure people know what our objectives are. That's something we work at all the time. You've got to remember that you've got an internal constituency, and sometimes either they've got to be tightened up on the message because they might stray away from it, they might forget about it, or sometimes they just need that push to remember what that primary message is. So we spend a lot of time, particularly with our marketing communications folks, making sure that we're getting the message out the right way internally too.
That's great. One of the questions from the audience was about how you communicate with current students, and I think that's something that a lot of institutions have a challenge with.
Sure.
And you talked about the way that you do it. You have a large following, and people follow you. Have you seen other ways that institutions have engaged with their current students?
I think it's multiple ways. Certainly it'll depend on the institution and what they need. I love seeing that institutions are starting to use social media platforms that they never thought they'd use before, like Instagram or Vine, to be a little more creative, a little more flexible. That's where they are. And I think the real challenge for people like us is to think about those platforms that are going to be engaging enough for the future, or they're going to be engaging enough to last. And that's where it can be really tough, but you've got to do some experimenting, and you got to try out a lot of different things.
Is experimentation part of the culture at BU? It's encouraged?
Yeah, we spend time once a week, my trusty assistant Kat and I, along with a couple of other people, we try to each week share videos that we think are particularly compelling, platforms that we may say, wow, this platform does a specific kind of thing. It's got a particular purpose, but we think we could repurpose this. And we do a lot of what ifs. Well, what if we did this with this platform or this app? And we'll contact the people behind it and say, can we talk? And can we try to figure this out a little bit? So yeah, you've got to make sure that sometime each week is about experimenting, trying new platforms, signing up, seeing if it works. Man, not everything does. I'd say about 80% of the stuff we tried bombs, doesn't work. And then the stuff that really, really works, we stick with it.
That's terrific. Well, thank you so much for being with
Thanks
us
for
at the
having me.
conference, for speaking, and for talking to me today.
It's great.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.